Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so we talk a little free agency news. A lot going on, and we're gonna try to just kind of react to everything that Shams has talked about thus far. First of all, Jaren Jackson, 5-year, 240, maximum renegotiation and extension. $50 million a year for Jaren Jackson is a no-go for me. That's a contract only a mother could love right there, buddy. The Memphis Grizzlies drafted him. They love him that much, so I'm sure they'll live with that. They have yet to win a championship. I don't think one's coming in their future. But they seem to be happy with Jaren Jackson, so God bless them. It ain't my money, and it wouldn't be. So that's what I have to say about that. They also signed Santi Aldama to a 3-year, 52. That's a bit rich for Santi Aldama as well. I like Santi, but that is a big contract for a player that's a nice role guy. Memphis is not going anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Signing stuff like this just puts you in a hole, and that is where they're going to be, in my opinion. Next up, Dorian Finney-Smith agreed to a 4-year, $53 million deal with the Houston Rockets. No sign and trade. He just outright left us, and for 4 years, $53 million, I am very fine with him doing it. Another contract I do not agree with. He's an aging player going to a team that's known for having young talent, so they do have young guys around him. Kevin Durant's obviously in place now. They're trying to go after it. I think they'll be happy with that contract first year, year 3, 4. That's when they're going to be wanting to move it, and that's when it's probably going to be a situation where they may not be able to. That is an aging basketball player as he signs it. Never a good idea. But Laker fans are a little upset we lost Dorian Finney-Smith, but this one is not. I'm a bit more savvy to say if you're going to sign him to that, then you're going to make a mistake. He's not worth that to us. To Houston, he may be based on what they're trying to build, but hey, man, if this is what it takes to get him, it's too much. Not doing it. B-Ball Paul Reed signed a 2-year, $11 million deal. I don't know if I like B-Ball Paul, but if the Pistons don't have a bigger role than what he played in last year, he's not even worth that. But if he does get the role, I know he can play that up. So it's all about what the Pistons are going to do with him. If you're going to have him sitting on the bench, not moving until like garbage time of the game, it's not a good situation for B-Ball Paul. But if he can get on the floor and be a part of regular rotation, he's going to play that up easy. So it's all about the minutes. It's all about the role. The contract's fine so long as you can get that much out of him. And in the past situations, teams haven't been able to. That's just what it's been. But I like B-Ball Paul, and I don't think that's a horrible contract if you want to trade for it, if you have that role for him. That's what it really comes down to in my mind. Next up, Cam Spencer, 2-year, $4.5 million for him. Cam Spencer stays in Memphis. Gritty guy off of their bench. They like him a lot. Have at it, Memphis. Like I said, they ain't going nowhere, man. They're about to waive Cole Anthony, from what I understand, or try to work toward a resolution that allows Memphis to create necessary cap space to renegotiate and extend Jaren Jackson. If you're going to let Cole Anthony leave before he even puts on your uniform, so you can give Jaren Jackson far too much money, have at it, buddy. It's just one more bad decision that they're making. They're making all kinds of bad decisions today. All right, something I did like. The Los Angeles Lakers signed Jake LaRavia to a 2-year, $12 million deal. That's $6 million a year for Jake LaRavia. I like Jake LaRavia. I've liked Jake LaRavia since he was in Memphis Grizzlies. Another player they should not have let go of. He went to Sacramento. Played probably good ball. I don't know. I didn't watch too much of him in Sacramento, but he's only like in his mid-20s, early 20s. I think he's like 23 years old. It's a good wing for us, man. I know he can play, so I'm excited about him coming in. And at that price tag, I'm not upset. $6 million a year for a guy that I think we can play up, especially with Dorian leaving. He's going to get more opportunities. I think this could potentially make it so that Dalton Knecht may not have the same role on the Lakers going forward. So you may want to keep an eye open to see if the Lakers dangle Dalton in trade at this point. Now that we're bringing in Jake LaRavia, but ultimately Jake is somebody who's going to be able to do some good things with the ball in his hands. Nice length, nice size, average defender, but definitely somebody who's going to be able to help us put scoring on the board and help us overall. So I like him a lot. I like him at that deal. I think it's a good pickup. I'd like to see what else the Lakers do. It seems like we're still in play for Ayton. I don't know if we're in play for Ayton and Lopez, but you know, we didn't sit on our hands the first couple hours of free agency and let everything dry up. We got us a guy, somebody that I'm pretty high on, and I think it was a good decision for the Lakers to get him. So definitely very pleased with that as a Laker fan. Next up, Trey Jones signed a 3-year, $24 million deal with the Chicago Bulls. I think he's worth that. I don't know if I'd sign with the Bulls if I'm him. But, you know, they were willing to give him $24 million for 3 years. He's a good player. I think he's really good. I don't quite know how good he is for the Bulls, but they did move on from Lonzo Ball, so maybe they have a bigger role for him. And if that's the case, I think he's going to be really good. So I like Trey Jones, still very young. Did good things in San Antonio. I'd imagine he could do some good things in Chicago. I just cringe when I see anybody go to Chicago because Chicago is not a good organization right now. But that's my opinion. D'Angelo Russell signed a 2-year, $13 million deal with the Mavericks. It's an excellent signing, excellent contract. D'Lo is worth more than that. He is. He may not be worth as much as we've been paying him for the last couple of years, but, you know, $6.5 million a year for D'Lo, that's great. And I like it from a basketball standpoint because my question for the Dallas Mavericks has been, since they got Anthony Davis, who is going to distribute the ball to Anthony Davis? Well, the one person we never had a problem getting the ball to Anthony Davis was D'Angelo Russell. So it seems like they've done their homework. I think AD probably told them, hey, look, if you want to get me the ball, I know who can do it. And at this price tag, you got to feel great about the signing. I think this is a very good signing for the Dallas Mavericks. He'll hold them down for the meantime. They know they got Kyrie coming back, so it's not like they're going to have him being their sole point guard forever. But he's going to distribute the basketball, and, you know, he's inconsistent scoring. His defense comes and goes, although it's mostly gone. Overall, I like D'Angelo Russell. He's not old. I don't even think he's 30 yet. So this is probably low-key one of the key signings of the day, given the dollar amount, the functionality of what D'Lo does for, getting Anthony Davis involved, which is extremely key for the Dallas Mavericks, who didn't have a facilitator at all. He's going to also be somebody who can get the ball, obviously, to their first overall pick, Cooper Flagg, and just boosters their overall talent in several areas. So I really like this signing for the Dallas Mavericks, especially since they did not overpay him at all. I think this is probably the signing of the day for me. And then there's the big news. The Denver Nuggets are trading Michael Porter Jr. and an unprotected 2032 first-round pick to the Brooklyn Nets for Cam Johnson. And the reason why that unprotected 32 is in place is because Cam Johnson's on a 2-year deal in the 20s, and Michael Porter Jr. has a 2-year deal like at $38 million. So significant pay decrease. The Nets are taking on significantly more money. So it's only right that they take on an unprotected first-round pick. I don't know if I would like it to be unprotected. If I'm Denver, 2032 is a long time out. But I think in the short term, I believe that this is a lateral move because Michael Porter Jr. and Cam Johnson are pretty much the same player in a lot of ways, even though Cam is probably a better defender. Michael's probably a better scorer, but not by much. So in a younger player, Cam Johnson, healthier player for the most part, Cam Johnson. I think in a nutshell, I'd rather have Cam Johnson in 2025. Michael Porter is still a very good player, though. And going to the Nets with all of those facilitators makes it so that you would want a guy like him, a catch-and-shoot guy in place who can get you 30 points on a good night. So Michael Porter, in my humble opinion, immediately becomes the star of the Brooklyn Nets. And I think Cam Johnson comes in and boosts the Denver Nuggets perimeter defense, keeps them on par with a good catch-and-shoot scorer who's broke out last year, was almost an all-star. So I think the Denver Nuggets can say they got better and saved money, which is going to leave them to be players in the cap situation as it pertains to either trading for something or making a move here in the free agency. So I think there's a good deal for the Denver Nuggets, even though they're getting rid of a first-round pick that's probably projected to be it was 7 years out, right? Jokic probably be retired by then or close to retiring by then. Maybe not. Will he stay in Denver that long? Is he a lifer in Denver? There's no way of knowing what's going to happen. But that determines whether or not I think they're going to be good enough to make that pick something that's not that serious. If the Denver Nuggets lose Jokic, there's a world where they're horrible. And if that's the case, that could be a fantastic pick. So we're going to look back on this trade years from now and wonder if this actually should have been done. But the Denver Nuggets did want to free up some cap space. They did want to bring back an on-par player for that same, more or less, tier, within that same tier, and for significantly less money. So I think you can say both teams won. Brooklyn Nets, they're loading up on picks, and that's a good thing for their franchise, even though they just did a bunch of bull crap with the picks they just had. Getting a pick that they can have way out that far gives them another tradable asset that they can use to continue to rebuild their process. So I think I like this for both teams overall. I do. I think it's the end of an era. Michael Porter Jr. leaving the Denver Nuggets. Got to be careful to think that Cam Johnson is going to seamlessly fit in that offense, even though it looks like he does on paper. Michael Porter was a part of what made all of that work. And so that's what is going to be understood. They were able to withstand Michael Porter's back injuries and surgeries and all that, developed him into a hell of a piece, won a championship with him. So you got to feel good about how that went overall. But they paid him too much, and that contract was hard to deal with and hard to move without attaching something to it. So overall, that's what it is, in my opinion. But this is the big news of the day thus far, unless something else happened. Ty Jerome agreed to a 3-year, $28 million deal with the Memphis Grizzlies. Grizzlies, they're not doing nothing, man. I'm not mad at Ty Jerome. He had a really good season last year. He played his value up to this point. But Memphis, I honestly think they're just making a bunch of really questionable moves. And I don't know that this one isn't questionable as well, to be honest with you. It's a little rich for Ty Jerome, even though he played his value up. What else is going on? Kevin Porter Jr. Yeah, some things have happened since I've been on camera. Kevin Porter Jr. signed a 2-year, $11 million deal with the Milwaukee Bucks. He found a home in Milwaukee. He's gonna have a bigger role in Milwaukee, given the fact that Dame is out. And so this is what it is. The Bucks just got to keep who they like. They signed Bobby Portis, if I'm not wrong, a couple days ago, or agreed to it. I'm sure he'll sign it today. And they retained Kevin Porter, so they're just trying to keep above the water. Honestly, the Bucks are just in a very bad situation, but I think they pick up an extremely talented player on a very good contract there. And so you got to feel good about that. I think he's worth more than that in a nutshell. Obviously, the stuff off the court kind of hurt his value, but this is a player who's definitely more talented than $5.5 million a year. I can tell you that. He's much more talented than that, especially at his age. So that's a wonderful contract for the Bucks. Bruce Brown went back to the Nuggets. Bruce Brown went back to the Nuggets on a 1-year deal. Got to feel great about that if you're the Nuggets, bringing back a guy that you won a championship with, someone who left here, who made it so that your team was really strong with size. I don't know if he's still the same player since he left. It's been 3 years. You'd have to think that some time may have put a little age on him or whatever, but he fit in that system very well. And with them losing Michael Porter, you would want them to bring back somebody of size, because I think Cam Johnson's just a lighter player overall. I don't think he's that much shorter. Well, he probably is. I got to check. But Michael Porter Jr., people forget that Michael Porter Jr. is almost a 7-footer, so you're really losing some of what made them different in terms of the size. You still have Gordon, obviously you still have Jokic, but bringing in Cam Johnson is a bit of a smaller player. Not a small player, but smaller. And so bringing in Bruce Brown, I think it boosts his size, and it gives him somebody who can really do some things. Now, Bruce Brown has had some injury issues since he left there, so you have to wonder how he's going to be as he returns to Denver. It's only a 1-year deal, but overall, all is right with the world when Bruce Brown returns to the Nuggets, I think, if you're a Denver Nuggets fan. So the Nuggets land Cam Johnson and Bruce Brown all in one flurry. You got to feel good about that for them. Wow, Kevon Looney, end of an era. He's headed to the Pellies, 2 years, $16 million, $8 million a year for the NBA champion many times over. Provides them a yet more huge body size at their Pelicans organization, somebody who can help ease the pain of having so many young players and so much going on with their roster. I don't know why Kevon Looney chose them, other than the fact they probably gonna pay him more than anybody else. I don't know why he chose them. You've been in Golden State for so many years, and you go to a Pelicans team that's really, really in a bad space. When you've never, this is my point of view, when you've never left a organization who's been winning since you've been there, who has a dynasty since you've been there, the culture shock of going to a bad organization is going to be something that I don't think he's really thought through. When you sign with the Pelicans, after being with the Warriors for 10 years, you're really setting yourself up for some bullcrap. I'm just being honest. Now, you're going into a new Pelicans era because they've brought in Queen, they've brought in Fears, and you hope that that can turn the tide on their future. But I honestly think this is simply a money grab for Kevon Looney, and he's really going to understand 3 months from now that he should have probably not done this. If you're going to leave an organization like the Warriors, you do not want to sign with an organization like the Pelicans. And so that's just my point of view. Zion Williamson, Kevon Looney, Queen, they're definitely bigger now. They needed a center to back up who they drafted last year at the center position. And so there's a lot of size there. I see a lot of size there. He'll help, but he's going to hate it. D'Angelo Russell has been given a player option in the second season of his deal. He just going to opt into that probably. That's news there. End of an era in Golden State with Kevon Looney, and that's where we're at unless something else comes up. Yes, it did. Luke Kornet signed a 4-year, $41 million deal with San Antonio. Luke Kornet leaves the Boston Celtics and signs a $10.2 million a year deal, something like that. My math, $10 million a year for Luke Kornet. I think he's earned that being an NBA champion, backup center for the Celtics. I think the San Antonio Spurs should feel pretty solid. As I think about it, I'm like, is he worth 10 a year? Yes. Would I felt better if it wasn't a 4-year deal? If I'm the holder of that contract? Probably. But I think he's a good fundamental center who really does help when you sit your best center down. So if Wemby's sitting down, Luke Kornet, you step in, you feel pretty good about Luke Kornet playing. I just don't feel great about the years. I'd have been much more comfortable if it were a 2-year deal. That type of commitment to Luke Kornet as a backup center, just not comfortable with. I'm not comfortable with it. But that's just me. Overall, I think he's proven himself to be a good center. He's going to fit in with San Antonio very well. He's already won a championship. They're going after a championship. I think their team fits very well with everything that they have. So, all things considered, I think San Antonio's now turned the corner, and I think they're going to be a winning team this year. Even though it's going to be a tough Western Conference, I'd imagine they're going to be very good. Very good. So, he doesn't hurt. He doesn't hurt, but I just, for my money, I would just want a year snatched off of there. I just feel like that's a imposing contract. Like, God, 4-year deals for a backup center. We'll see. We'll see how that looks. So that's where we're at, man. That is everything that Shams has reported up until 4:30 on the first day of free agency. That's where we're at. Like I said, as a Laker fan, I feel great about the Drake LaRavia pickup. I have no problem with that. I think the dollar amount and the years makes me feel comfortable. It's not as imposing, just like the Kornet contract. Now we look and see what else is done. There's still a lot of stuff that has to be done. I am kind of surprised that Bruce Brown went back to the Denver Nuggets. I am kind of surprised. But like I said, I think it's the right move for him. It's where he had the most success. And I am a little surprised by the Michael Porter Jr. move, but the contract on the Nuggets left them in such a bad situation as an organization that they really need to move on from something. And that contract is bad, man. It just is. They paid him too much. And so this gives them a bit more flexibility, and ultimately this is what it's all about for the Nuggets, so that they can bring themselves some boosted up bench talent, which is what has always been missing with the Nuggets. Even the year they won the championship. Clint Capella, 3 years, $21 million with the Houston Rockets. So the Rockets get older, the Rockets get bigger. $21.5 million deal with the Houston Rockets on a 3-year. Clint Capella should have never been traded from the Rockets. They traded him away and left themselves with a very small team way back in the day. He goes back there. It's a comfortable space for him after spending several years at the place he was traded, Atlanta. But he's aged in Atlanta quite a bit. I don't know if he's the same player. In fact, I believe he's not. Old equals win now in the NBA. The problem is the team that just won now is very young. So take that for what it's worth. I don't agree with the mentality of what the Houston Rockets are doing. I don't. I think it's sound based on how people think. I just think outside the box when it comes to what it takes to win. I don't believe when I have a team full of youngsters that I need to start removing youngsters and bringing myself old guys in order to be ready to win. I don't agree with that. That's the consensus, and it doesn't make any sense in this brain. So when I see them do this, and I see them go get Dorian Finney-Smith, I think they're clapping and they feel great that they're going to win. I think that's a bunch of old bodies that's going to be pushed around by younger teams. Take that for what it's worth. So, Clint Capella, is he worth 3 years, $25 million in 2025? No, I don't think so. I don't mind. Again, the dollar amount, he's going to play up the dollar amount. The commitment to 3 years for Clint Capella, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. It's not nearly as imposing, in my opinion, as the Luke Kornet deal, though Luke is a younger player, and it makes some sense there. But Clint, the problem with Clint is he's aging. That's the problem. He's getting old. He was drafted as an older rookie. So now that we're further along in his career, he's an old guy. And so for Houston, you feel great about their front court because they do have Steven Adams, and now they have Clint Capella. Those are some strong, imposing centers. They're going to be able to match up well with people year one. With the center position in place, and of course they got the young fella that you really appreciate. I can't think of his name. His name always leaves my mind, but I'm such a fan of what he does. So that the center position is legit. There's no denying the center position is legit. But all three of those guys have had injury issues. The commitment to the center position is admirable, but there's still a world where all three of them people get hurt at the same time. I guess if that's the dynamic, you want all three of them in place to cushion the blow. So it's sound logic there. You want to be as deep as you can, especially with all those people there. They gotten older, they gotten bigger. Maybe they contend, maybe they win. I just wonder when it's all said and done if the Houston Rockets don't deeply regret pulling off so much youth from their team and replacing it with so much veteran leadership, which in my mind just means old bodies. That's what I think. And what else? Something else going on too. Caris LeVert goes to Detroit, 2-year, $29. That's way too much for Caris LeVert. He is so overrated in this league, man. So overrated. He's a nice player. He gets some points, this and that, but he is injury prone. Injury prone. So for 2 years, you're giving him practically $16 million a year to play in Detroit. No. The good thing about that contract is it's over in 2 years. The bad thing about that contract is you got to pay it. Caris LeVert is nice at times. When he's on the floor healthy, he could be helpful. He had that one game where he'll go for 20 points in the second half. This is what you're paying for. But in the grand scheme of things, on a team that has a bunch of wings and they have a lot of players at the wing spot in Detroit. There's no way in hell I'm committing that amount to another role guy just so he can give me some nice points here and there. Maybe show up in the playoffs, maybe. That's just not what you want me to say, man. I just have a certain view on this type of stuff, man. If they would have said Caris LeVert 2-year, $20 million, I'd have been like, all right, that's okay, I can live with that. 2-year, $30 million? No. Hell no. You overrating that man, something terrible. But Detroit is, when you have him on the floor and he's healthy, he can really help boost your bench. But I just think people overrate the hell out of Caris LeVert. I really do. I just think he's one of those guys that's like, oh, he goes. He can really go. Yes, he can, but he's also going to miss about 50 games a year. Historically, he's going to miss about 50 games a year. So, it's not my money. It ain't my team, man. And this is why I'm sitting here saying, yo, I'm happy with the Jake LaRavia signing. As a Laker fan, I'm happy because look at what these teams are doing. Look at what Memphis is doing. Look at what Detroit's doing. These teams are just saying, yo, I like him. Give him all the money in the world. Houston's like, yo, we need to get old so we can win. When the best team is the youngest team in the league. Like, that's what I got to say. BDL 44. I thank y'all for watching.